Hello, Internet. So, Paul and I have just walked out of a Thursday night screening, special, critics only, and everybody who bought a ticket, screening of The Magnificent Seven. It is now 1:15 a.m., and we are going to record our thoughts for your enjoyment.
And
Paul,
edification.
yes. Why don't you give us a quick synopsis? What's Magnificent Seven about?
Magnificent Seven is your classic Western. It starts off in a little town, and Peter Sarsgaard plays Baron Bogue. Bogue.
Yep.
I thought there was maybe a Q in there at some points. But Baron Bogue, and he is an evil man, ends up taking over the town due to some mining conflicts, and 7 magnificent other individuals are rallied together to fight for the town.
So now that we know everything there is to know about the Magnificent Seven, here are some interesting facts about the movie that are interesting. The most interesting fact about this movie is that this is a remake, which is a remake of a Japanese movie. So this is a remake of a remake. A lot of people are familiar with the 1960 Western, The Magnificent Seven, starring Yul Brynner and a bunch of other people. Steve McQueen's in it. What not as many people know is that is actually a remake of a Japanese movie called The Seven Samurai by Akira Kurosawa. And there you go.
And both of those are a remake of the 1986 film Three Amigos.
I did not know that.
That is actually not correct, but I thought perhaps at times that it was. a gritty reboot.
A gritty reboot from 26 years before.
But also, you may not know that this film is directed by Antoine Fuqua, and he is best known for his Denzel Washington team-up. So he is known for Training Day is obviously his big film, but they teamed up in Equalizer, and in Equalizer, most people know that the female lead was Chloe Moritz, but the second lead in the film, who playing Mandy, was Haley Bennett, who is actually the lead in Magnificent Seven.
That is very interesting. All right. Now we're going to get into the meat and bones of the movie. There's going to be some spoilers here. So if you are really worried about that, you might want to just turn this off until you have a chance to see the movie for yourself. We're not going to go into fully describing the whole plot or anything like that, but some tidbits are going to come out. So fair warning, there you go. All right, Paul. Time to talk about what was good and what was maybe not so good.
Well, let's start with the good.
Let's start with the good. What do you think was good?
Well, obviously, they put this together much in the same fashion that they now put together other buddy films like your Ocean's 11 or a film like that with a lot of charismatic actors. And the great news is that they play off each other quite well. Everyone from Ethan Hawke, Chris Pratt, I mentioned Denzel Washington, Vincent D'Onofrio was great, Peter Sarsgaard, even though he doesn't have a lot of screen time with the other actors. So the fact they had some great little moments together, I didn't think anyone crushed it. I don't think anyone stepped outside their comfort zone in terms of their performances, but the performances were good, and they were what I wanted to see. The other thing, obviously, great action, and maybe you'll talk about that a bit more, but I think the other thing for me was the cinematography. I thought the cinematography was very beautiful for an action film like this. The Wild West lends itself to some of that. I know that you can see the film in IMAX. We didn't get to see it in IMAX, but so for me, the cinematography and the character beats were among the best things.
Absolutely. I actually was surprised by how much I enjoyed. Is it Byung-Hun Lee? Who plays Billy
Yes,
Rocks?
who plays Billy.
Yeah. His performance was, I thought, really good. He wasn't just a martial arts action guy. He has some good lines and good character in this movie, I thought.
He does. What threw me about Billy, I loved Billy. He was a highlight, kind of like El Diablo was a surprise in Suicide Squad. Billy was a surprise in this film, but he didn't have any accent at all. He had a very American accent, and it was a little bit strange given that they kept mentioning his race.
Yeah, well,
so there's that. But obviously, that was fun.
Other things I thought were good. If you're pay attention, anybody who's in charge of a major Hollywood studio. If you want to do a remake, this is the way you do a remake. You pick a movie that was made long enough ago that a lot of the people watching the movie won't remember it, won't have ever seen it, won't have any clue that there was a movie 60 years ago almost.
Right. 1960.
1960
right? Yep.
is when that movie came out. Unless you're an Old West fan like me and other people, you probably have not seen it. And then when you make it, you don't make the exact same movie. You take the premise and you change it. You adapt it for modern audiences. We're going to play to the strengths of the people who are in there. These characters are not a direct copy of the characters that are in the original one.
Not in any stretch.
The story is actually significantly different. It's
about saving a town.
It's about saving a town. The old one is Mexican bandits. This one's more about kind of capitalism and something that plays a little better in modern sensibilities than
Sure.
But yes, it's a bunch of 200 guys with guns attacking a town and these people that save it. But the actual individual characters, there's some that are draw compared, and some it's like there's nothing like
Right.
this
In
guy
fact,
the
as
original
far as I can tell, they didn't even use any of the same names.
No,
They're all,
no, I don't think they
they're all
did.
different. So
Yeah. Anyways, but so if you're gonna make a remake, you kind of picked the best parts out of it. You got your theme music, you got your setting, the bones of a story, and now we're gonna make a new story on it. So I thought that was really well done. I actually enjoyed the characters quite a bit. There was more characterization in this movie than I thought would be. They do a better job of making the characters likable. You care about them. Not all of them are going to make it through the movie, which shouldn't be a shock to.
And unlike Suicide Squad, they didn't painfully make us go through 7 origin stories up front.
We don't know the origin stories of half these people at all. They're hinted at. Like Chris Pratt's character, you don't know anything about this guy.
Well, you end up learning things about everyone, but they don't hammer it over the head up.
Yeah, and just like in the vague outlines of background.
Yeah,
kind of, right?
absolutely.
Like I have no idea where he was born or what his upbringing was like, or Anyway, so that was great.
So Billy Rocks was definitely, as I said, was one of the standouts. But the other wild card in here was Red Harvest. He's not really he doesn't get a lot of the marketing material because he's not a well-known actor, but very fun every time he's on screen.
Yeah, he's a character. Yeah, Red Harvest was a cool character, but he's sort of the same thing. That it's just like, well, we're already hitting the 2 hours some minute for this thing, so he meets the guys. And then is just, well, I guess I'll come with you, with no.
Right, other than
Denzel Washington's just like, well, we're gonna go fight bad guys, and he's like, okay, well, I guess I'll come fight to the death with you.
Yeah, his motivation is
I don't know.
His motivation is very shallow because he does not see the value in this town.
No.
So other than to hang out with the cool kids, that really seems to be his main
Hang out
motivation.
with the guy that used to be a scalp hunter. That's
I guess.
That's. Yeah. Anyways, yes, there was certainly the amount of time spent on characters was pretty much directly proportional to the
maybe
star cred that
maybe
they
this will become a shared universe and they will each get their own spin-off solo films and we'll see the Red Harvest film up.
Could be.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll get all those questions answered.
The action was good. It was very well done. Honestly, I've seen some much better gunfights, even in some old Western movies. It's kind of like, I kind of have a pet peeve that somehow, and there's a Gatling gun in this that's like this crazy doomsday weapon that destroys whole towns, and it's like, there's no reason that gun can shoot through all these buildings and their rifles.
Not only that, I started actually watching The Angle.
Yeah.
And there was no physics. Like, these were very mind-bendy bullets, but that's fine.
Yeah, and it's like you don't need it because you already have
An army.
Sure. But you want to have some sort of a big, cool visual thing, and I get it. But some of like the old John Wayne westerns and old Clint Eastwood's had better shot and more interestingly visual gunfights. I would have liked to have seen something a little more callback to that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else good that we haven't mentioned that?
I would just say along the lines of the remake, there was a few lines that were very memorable from the first film that they absconded and put in different places in a few places. But it was a nice callback if you are familiar with it, and they're just great dialogue if you're not familiar with it. So that was, again, it didn't bang you over the head. We made a remake, but some subtle nods.
The other thing that I actually appreciated was not having the female lead get involved in a romantic story with any of the characters.
True enough.
Literally days after watching her husband be gunned down in front of her. What wasn't so good, Paul? What maybe?
You want me to start?
Not so good. Yeah.
Okay, so a few things. One, and we talked a little bit more about the remake being a remake than we needed to, but I kept thinking they were going into the classic theme, which is very heroic, and if you've heard it before, you know it.
Yeah.
And they kept giving me the beats, but not the melody, and like the exact same syncopation. And I wanted to freaking sing along, and I made me wait to the credits, so that kind of frustrated me a little bit because anyway, I wanted to see that a little bit more. The main negative for me was that I thought it was predictable. There was nothing that happened that surprised me. Everything was wonderful. Everything's exactly as I wanted it to be, but it left me just like the fate of every character I kind of called in advance.
It was quite by the numbers plot wise.
Right.
Especially anybody who's watched a fair bit of westerns or really even just action movies, you're not going to be totally shocked by any of the things that happen in this. They do it really well. It kind of maybe it's on my brain because there's been John Wick 2 news, but I was in John Wick is another one where it's like, yeah, you're not shocked by anything that happens in this movie. They just do a really good job of showing it to you, right?
Yeah.
Other things that were not so good. The villain is a good villain. He's easy to hate. He's a little, in my mind, too. I'm just evil for the sake of evil,
like mustache twisty evil.
Yeah, like why exactly are you trying to? Like you have a giant gold mine right by that you're working. I presume you actually need this town to get supplies and
sure.
Like, what possible reason do you have to just drive all these people off? And why not just actually buy the land from them? Because you're mining frigging gold, so you can clearly afford it.
Yeah, he was a little mustache twisty, and
is it in any way more cost effective than hiring hundreds of people with gunfighters that I presume are at a premium too?
Right.
Even in the movie while I was watching, I said to myself, "Let it go. It's not that kind of movie. Just accept it for what it is. They're going out of their way to make him a caricature of evil so that you can very quickly just start hating this guy and move on, right?"
Though Peter Sarsgaard again does a great job.
He does a great job. Maybe that's why it is a little disappointing that you have he puts so much feeling and depth into this character. Like you hate him, and it's like the whole time he looks like he's dying. He looks like Val Kilmer in Tombstone. Like I assume he has TB or something because throughout the entire movie he looks like he's 2 steps away from,
Well, you don't want shiny white teeth on your westerns.
No,
you want.
So then you get into this kind of like your motivations don't really make a lot of sense to me, other than just because I can. I'm just being evil.
Okay.
So that was to me the main detraction from the film, the lack of depth on the antagonist. Yeah. All right. So that's our quick rundown of Magnificent Seven. That being said, time to get down to the dirty business. How would you rate this movie, Paul?
So, Dave, I give this movie a see it in theaters, but see it quickly, if only because it may not be in theaters that long.
It's sad but true. I would also very much recommend seeing this movie in theaters, but fair warning, Westerns are one of the reliable ways to get me to love your movie. Just make a Western and I'll see your movie. So, well, that's what we thought of Magnificent Seven. We would love it if you would let us know what you thought. So please comment and tell us, did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you like Westerns? Do you hate Westerns? Are you sick to death of seeing Chris Pratt in every major movie these days? If you really liked what we had to say, go ahead and click that like button. If you want to see more of what we have to say, go ahead and click subscribe. Until next time, I'm David.
And I'm Paul.
And this is Fractal, signing off.